Cause we put in all that new
It's all
material.
nice.
That's all.
And it is 4 o'clock. We do have a quorum, so call to order. And I'll like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to approve the May 2nd meeting minutes.
I make a motion to approve the May 2nd, 2024 meeting minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to approve our brief consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have no public that I can see, and just to note that Tim is out sick today.
Yes.
We will move on to
Okay.
report.
Excellent. Well, no manager report today in Tim's absence, so I'll just go ahead and jump into operations report so we can get to the meat of our meeting with Chris. Today, before us, we have a action item for Highland Road water main extension associated with the North 40 project across from Yokes on Highway 2. Come to find out, Dave Black Enterprises is actually the developer of that binding site plan. Oh, yeah, got another trick, don't worry. So in this water service agreement or main extension, I want to open it in Chrome. I did that. Apologies. There we go. Get to the map. So I've approved some off-site water main plans for extending Highland Road. There is no water main in Highland Road currently. So part of the project, there'll be 3 additional lots on Highway 2 and 1 additional on Highland Road. They're not planning to do anything at this time, but create those lots and part of the binding site plan. We would still be required to serve them through state law, but basically a 12-inch main will come from the Meade Airport at Freya Street and connect in with Highway 2 where we have 12-inch pipe already. And that makes way for them to get service in these front lots along Highland Road. We have not approved the permit for the actual North 40 project yet. They're still in plan review with the county, but we're getting close to that. And as I understand it, North 40 has chosen a contractor. So this water main agreement is really for like 1,000 feet of 12-inch pipe along Highland Road associated with this project to help finish the loop between Freya and Highway 2. Doesn't really meaningfully change the System 9 South. It helps that little area with fire flow and looping and things. One of the items that we like to double check on all of these that we don't always mention is the corporate officer and the corporation is actually active and not in some bad state. And so I have checked that. Black Enterprises is active. Dave is a corporate officer of that entity. So today it's really just 1 connection as a part of this project, but 5 additional connections in the future. They have a description in here.
Is it residential or?
These will all be commercial lots. I've heard some rumors that there might be a couple of restaurants that end up on the Highway 2 side, potentially some other retail type establishments. And one time I heard maybe like a Sherry's or a Perkins might end up in there. So we're excited. So we can now go down there for tools and lunch maybe.
Whose cost is this?
This is a developer's cost. So basically all of these water main agreements for development is all a pay to play scenario. You need it, you got to pay to build it. You hand it over to us. once it's complete for perpetual maintenance and operation of that asset, becomes part of our portfolio that Chris depreciates. And then there's a 1-year warranty bond associated with that project. So if there's any problems in the first year, the developer is responsible for the costs associated with any repairs. After 1 year, then all of the costs become ours.
So they're building it as well?
Correct.
Are we overseeing that?
We will oversee that. Yeah, Mark Newton and I do most of the inspection on those.
Okay.
Bill assists and Bob does all the water quality sampling, make
Okay.
sure it's clean.
Yeah, because we're gonna take it over eventually and any cost associated, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it needs to be right.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time working with the contractor to make sure it is right.
Right. Okay.
So, not too controversial in any way, but I have not approved the permit for the actual store yet. That is still coming as a part of the larger package. So this is the work along Highland Road right there opposite of Yokes, just to loop the system so they can have service to their other lots.
So the store, when that happens, there'll be more fire hydrants in that area where they're gonna be building the North 40.
Right, North 40 is proposed to have an 8-inch water meter right off of Highway 2, sort of on the north side of that empty lot. And then they will operate private infrastructure within their commercial lot as a part of our master meter policy. Everything in the store's property is theirs to manage. So if they have a blowout and it floods the store, that's their responsibility. If they need to close the store to maintain their lines out in the parking lot, that's their responsibility. And that's a big reason for the master meter policy is we don't want public lines in a commercial parking lot where we have to move cars, tow cars, deal with the manager to get the store closed. North 40 had proposed putting a public main line 30 feet out the front door, all the way across. Absolutely not. They were not even going to entertain that. That's what we have at Fred Meyer. That is what we do not want. They were good. And there will be more development, but that'll come about in additional permits with the county as Black leases or sells those lots on.
So you need approval.
Need a motion to approve the water main extension with Black Enterprises for the Mead Commercial BSP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody?
I make a motion to approve the North 40 water main extension agreement. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Other things that I wanted to cover, you may have received earlier this email from Vista about their public safety, what was it, Chris? Public safety power shutoff policy, where they're now being forced by their insurance company to turn the electrical system off in places with high wind. Chris actually brought it to my attention when our account automatically sent us the notification, and we've been in touch with Tracy Ogletree. She's a customer of Whitworth, but works for Avista and is our account executive. And we had a lot of questions for her. What does this mean for us? You shut the power off. Yeah, we need notice. We need to know in advance. You're shutting it off for fire danger, now making more fire danger for the community. Didn't get a lot of answers. The good news is they're doing a webinar, question and answer on Monday, the 20th, with their wildfire preparedness team. It really sounds like Avista had no choice in the matter.
Is Inland Power Light doing the same thing?
We have not gotten any notice from Inland
I've
Power
gotten, notice from Inland Power that they're.
at your house.
Yes.
Interesting, because we have 20 or so properties served by Inland Power and we have not received notice.
So just curious, are we isolated as an entity by chance? I mean, if they turn our pumps off, should there be a fire, they need our water.
It becomes a problem, yeah, and that's one of the topics we want to talk about with them on Monday.
Yeah, so
And-
is there a way to give us dedicated power? So, I mean, if they, there's certain neighborhoods where we have pumps. Is there a way to give us dedicated power so if they shut a neighborhood or an area off? Well, what I'm saying is there a way to look at that?
Certainly.
Because if they need water to fight a fire and they turn our power off,
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
we have
got
a
couple
generator.
hours of
Kind of
water.
like you just had enough knowledge, what was it, 22 and 3D. We brought in a generator because they had said there would be
When
rolling
this-
blackouts and.
Yeah,
When it was not, in that situation, it was because of the high heat and their system was malfunctioning because of the high heat.
Yeah.
They gave us some notice. And in that time, we were able to modify our operation to reduce our power load, to help them out significantly and keep the neighborhood in power on the second day that it had happened. And I don't know that this situation is really parallel to that, but we're asking for 2 or 3 days notice that this may happen in later this week, so we can do what we can ahead of time. And then we need to know exactly when you're going to do it. You need to give us half an hour notice so we can shut down our equipment. So not only are we out of power, but we need to not damage our stuff for when the
Right.
power comes back on. And so right after this happened, they dropped a tree on a line on Mill Road that took out 9 running wells last week. And so that brought up the topic, what are you doing about this line?
This is
And
the Paradise, California issue.
this has to do with the PG&E issue, the Lanai issue, and
Yeah,
in
in
Hawaii, there
Hawaii.
was one in Texas. And the insurers just don't have enough money to pay for those claims.
yeah,
And so the insurers are putting these conditions on the utilities, and the utilities just have to deal with it. And one of the things that Melissa had said, or sorry, Tracy had said, was that they've been working with EMS and fire departments, fire commissioners about this. Fire 9 doesn't know a whole lot about it.
They're gonna
So,
think this through.
yeah,
Gotta have
yeah.
water.
But it would be the same situation for us, and so there's some understanding here. If our insurance says that we can't do anything, and we can't do this thing, we have no choice. We wanna do it uninsured, or do we wanna do what our insurance says, and stay insured? That's basically a non-question. We have no choice there. They have no choice
yeah.
in the.
Anyway,
But how does the liability work? If Avista shuts us off, Fire 9 has a fire, they
Yeah.
can't put it out, they point to us, we point to Avista.
yeah,
That's a ball of wax that nobody's gonna understand here. And it'd be interesting to, get Brian's perspective on it. Of course, we'll learn more. But, there is some sizable risks for our district in that way.
so what I'm saying is while you're talking to them, they probably haven't thought about it before, but if they just blanket shut off an area, which includes our resources and Fire 9 or whoever can't fight a fire, is there a way to think about giving us dedicated power that you can shut off an area
There
except
is.
us?
There is,
Well, let's-
anything is possible with the right amount of money.
Right, so
But they're gonna ask us to pay for that.
well,
You
is
know,
it their
you want a
liability?
dedicated main line to your house from our system,
Right,
you
but
gotta pay for that.
is it their liability at the end of the day if they just blanket shut power off and things can't be
That's a
done?
good question.
So it's worth a dialogue to
Yeah,
see how
absolutely.
that.
So right now, 9 of our wells are all on the same grid, all of system 3, most of system 2, all of system 8 are on the same feed. Along with 3,600 homes.
That doesn't bode well for redundancy.
That does not.
Yeah,
And that's the area we got hit with blackouts in 21. So, more to report as we learn more from them on Monday, the 20th. Chris and I will be attending and possibly others to
Okay.
ask as many of those questions as we can. It's something that we will continue to try to understand what our situation looks like if that were to happen. The good news that Tracy offered is that they would not have shut the power off last year at any time on any day. It did not meet their threshold requirements that the insurance is telling them they have to shut it off. In both Medical Lake and Elk, while those fires were active, even they wouldn't have shut it off.
Yeah, it's almost like a catch-22,
Yeah.
you need to shut off power because of increased fire danger, but then you shut power off and you can't get water to the fires, it's,
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Really bizarre.
My
situation.
son was born in 91 when we had firestorm, and there really wasn't any warning like what they're talking about, but maybe they weren't as knowledgeable about what they could do. But there were fires burning all over the whole entire region, and they were all down trees on power lines. That's why they've spent so much time and money trimming back trees on the power lines.
Right, right.
And there was a run on generators. We could not get our generator for some amount of time. We had to wait in line.
Yeah.
And Fire 9 tried to help us get a generator because they were so concerned about their secondary problems.
Mhm.
And I believe the National Guard ended up helping us supply one in some way. And it's a problem.
Well, it's good to think of this stuff ahead of time.
Exactly, exactly. We're talking about it in May. That's a good thing.
Hey, Matt, couple,
Yeah.
couple thoughts. These are just off the top of my head. Well, so to answer Lee's question, I think if there were an event that resulted in the power being shut off, which then prevented water from being supplied, which then prevented fire prevention, that would be the proverbial throw all the cats in the bag, shake it up and see who claws it out, litigation scenario. Everybody would be named. I would wonder in this instance, a couple things. One, it might be good to get in contact with the, and I don't know the official name, but it's the Spokane County Emergency Response Management. You know who I'm talking about, the organization?
Yeah, they help with notifications and all kinds of stuff, right, Brian?
Yeah. Yep. You know, the county has to, and I can get the website and shoot it to you, but the county has to operate an emergency management response program. I would think that they would have some input into who can prevent power from reaching the critical sources and who can't. And if it has to happen, I would think that there could be some financial resources through that program or the state program as well, that might be able to provide that power source. I have to think Avista's gone through them, but maybe not. You know, if it is an insurance demand, then they're probably at the beck and call of their insurer as well. The other thing is this would be if there was ever an opportunity for the water district and both fire districts or all the fire authorities within your jurisdiction to band together to you know, to be on the same page. This would certainly be it with the county emergency management program and Avista. You know, I think we've talked over time. There's intergovernmental relationships that are good and some that are not as good. This would be an opportunity for everybody to be on the same page with,
Right.
you know, for risk prevention. So, yeah, let me know what we can do. I'll shoot you the website on the emergency management program because I think at a minimum, there's going to have to be some notice and contemplation by that program at the county level before Avista can do something.
Yeah, so if you can't get dedicated lines, which that's probably not gonna happen, maybe you can at least solicit some funds for another dedicated generator.
Another generator.
Or
You
two.
know, if they're worried about it, they shut the power off because there's a risk weather-wise or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a house fire starts up. Can you turn it back on for us?
Well, or at a minimum, you know, maybe Avista should be thinking about some indemnification extensions to the water and the fire districts on this.
Yeah.
I mean,
You may wanna think about a risk assessment, you know,
Yeah.
if this happens, this is the result, how do you remediate that? So
Right.
is that another generator or two to keep these pumps flowing in case of, you know, fire
Right.
prevention or something like that? So a risk assessment should be done,
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we have embedded fire capacity in all of our zones. We are fully vested in all of our fire fighting capability in our system. The problem comes into play when multiple days go by.
And you run through the.
And we depressurize the system when people using too much water and us not producing enough. So, you know, as soon as we hear of any shutdown coming, everybody will be getting a letter in the mail or an email that you need to turn your sprinklers off right now if you want to have any water to drink and any fire to any water to put the fire out on your block. And that's the primary move that we have to try to keep the water system in good standing, is to get everybody to shut off their stuff and to conserve water during that time. And that will absolutely be step one, besides talking with the Vistas, how long is this gonna be, you know, those types of things. So more to come, obviously more conversation with Brian and all of you about how this plays out for 24, but, not a real
Yeah,
great
'cause fire
topic.
season is on us. I mean, there's already fires happening here and there, so,
BC is on fire right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Again.
yeah, well, that's every year.
Yeah,
We just wanna be proactive, I think, before it hits us.
right. So, in better news, I've been working down on the Little Spokane Bridge, just a couple lots down from Chris's house, getting prepared for the bridge to come down in about a month, along with the other utilities. Bill and a good portion of the crew have been down there for about a week and a half. We had a service line to relay last week.
A bridge too far.
And we had some main line to relocate this week, so property at 20405 Little Spokane, is a couple lots down from Chris's, is opposite here. Customer Riley Anderson, we worked with him to get his service done last week. And then on Monday this week, we shut the main line down and installed this valve and this new pipe. We had to cut the PVC away from where the new bridge abutments will be and retaining walls, and kind of route it around the cross under CenturyLink's lines and Avista's lines here. Let me. Sure. And this is where we finished on Monday. Got under all of those utilities. The hard part is very challenging digging basketballs and watermelon sized rocks. So fortunately we got a head start last week on some of the digging, because it was 2 full days just to get ready for this piece on Monday of digging.
Will that thrust block stay there then, or?
It'll stay there.
Yeah.
Yep. This was the big bend where a lot of force coming from the McDonald tank up to the Woolard booster.
So is that to keep the pipe from moving? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's essentially, yep. If there's a water hammer event, there's 130 pounds of pressure in this pipeline and 110 square inches, a resultant dust of 14,000 pounds or so. It can just blow pipes apart.
Chris turns on the bathtub and that's just.
Yeah, exactly. Or if there's a fire and everybody's using the fire hydrants and shuts them down really quick, there can be an event or a malfunction, the power goes off. The good news is all of the pipe from this block on, or this valve on, is 100% restrained all the way across the river. So there's nothing that can blow apart downstream of here. It's just the plastic pipe down the way. And that's really the concern here, is this valve could pull this pipe apart. If you were to shut that valve, it could pull that next stick of pipe out of the ground at that amount of force. So that makes it challenging. That block's 3,600 pounds, which our little machines can't move that. So we rented a bigger machine from Cat Rental.
And when you fill in all that dirt, that compounds way.
Yeah, exactly. Compact behind it, in front of it. This is a final connection where we're tying back in. You can see we cut this old pipe out and capped it off, so we can't get soil migration and settlement happening. And then we tied in with another sleeve and a bend here. Guys really did great. It's great weather, great place to have lunch. Nobody around, no traffic. A lot different than working on Hawthorne or Division or any of those places. And our local inspector came by to visit us every morning, so that was nice too.
I wanted to know whether we could put water in the river.
Yeah,
She asked that question.
yeah,
Because we had to drain our pipes down.
yeah.
Are you guys still there?
We did, so yesterday we completed the pressure testing, and today we did our bacteria testing. We'll know tomorrow the results of the bacteria testing. We had a window lined up with Fire 4 to have this project go till next Wednesday, but we're hopeful that will end tomorrow and we can get Chris's neighborhood back in 100% fire capacity again. We will have a little bit of work to do there on Monday to finish our little blow off device. But really good work by the fellas, really good work by Nisha and her crew. The plan, I think, was installed perfectly to plan. It was great. We got the county to stake where the wall was going to be when we were done, and it was actually closer, further away than we thought it was even going to be. So we feel good about it. And,
Great.
But the gas and the fiber, everyone else has to move now. We were the first ones in. Now we gotta watch where are they gonna move.
yeah, we don't want them right on top
Ground is
of
not
us.
very diggable.
You want fiber?
What, you have fiber up there?
That's the majority of the operations report. Oh, here's the other one that wasn't loading. So we have this temporary blow off in here, so we can flush water out of that isolated chunk of line, get the chlorine out, flush some more clean water out, be able to take a coliform sample, make sure there's no bacteria in the line. So this is just the last little piece that we need to finish. We'll turn this into a permanent blow off when we're done. But if it,
At that conduit, there's
the fiber. This is the 4-inch fiber conduit. There's a fiber box right here. Our old blow off I was connected to the old line, is here, connected to the old line up here. Anyhow, I digress. Projects are going well, in this way, we're about done. The river will end up getting diverted the second week of June. They'll put sheet pile in the river and de-water the river to pull the pilings out. We will be in danger there too, so I plan on being there and discussing that with them, because we have a line under the river, they sink a sheet pile into it. That'll be a real big problem, a lot more challenging than what we just did. So I was talking with their project managers of RAS Construction today, helping them understand those things. But they seem pretty good, and they've done a couple of other bridge projects with the county already, so we are putting a casing on the bridge in addition, so we'll need to manage that part of the project for a future water line on down the road.
They're going to de-water the river, is that what
Yeah, well, Chris and I were talking about it before the meeting, there's a couple of different ways that you could go about it. You could actually build a new channel and divert the
Yeah.
river that way, which you see sometimes, but I believe what they will do is sink sheet piles on each side of the bridge and then sandbag in between them, and then pump that water out to where they can pull the concrete out without sending it down the river. And then they have to do the same thing to install the new piles. So it's kind of interesting project.
Just the abutments in one single span.
Are they?
Yeah.
But they've gotta take everything that they have to take out of there, they can't be dropping into the river, so
Yeah, so the
that's gonna be
sheet
a
piling
problem
and all
too.
that goes on the columns, then they remove those. But they said there's gonna be abutments each side with a single
Oh,
span.
nice. So no,
Nice.
no columns in the middle. They have a big, huge pile of sheet pile or pilings down there. So I'm not totally sure how that's all gonna work, but it'll be fun. Different project. We understand that they'll do the Colbert Bridge next year. So we're gonna do that all again, but it was really all I've had. We got the North Spokane Retail, the last water main extension we heard about 3 weeks ago was complete, closed out. The owner closed it out today. We got a permit for a Fred's Appliance down there and one for STCU. There's pre-application meetings coming up for those, so that'll be exciting. And the car wash is proceeding. They're not quite to project approval at this time, but it's really all the project stuff for now. Unless y'all have any thoughts or additional questions for me. Perfect. Said.
Take her away, Chris.
Okay, so we have an action item under financial. And before we move to that, Tim and I thought it best to kind of, not sure if, I gotta figure out what this is. Not sure if anybody got a chance to read the investment policy. And if you recall it all, but we thought it would be helpful to maybe go over some of the more pronounced pieces or the boulders, if you will. And then just give a brief general overview of what we're looking at doing before we move on to the action item and fire away. So we'll just kind of really quickly just start here and just look at some portions of the investment policy and just kind of take it section by section, just some of the main pieces here. And the right here is kind of the reference to the pages in the policy if you want to look at it. It's in front of you. So we have section 4, the objectives of the policy. And again, we've gone over these before. That's our duty as a fiduciary of public funds, keep funds safe, keep them available for what it is that we do, and try and earn a rate of return without violating those first two principles. So that's in the policy. We have section 6 that speaks to safekeeping, custody, and control. That's on pages 6 and 7. And that we have a provision here for what is termed delivery versus payment, meaning that we do not pay our broker when we actually invest in the securities, when they buy them on our behalf. We send our money to the custodial bank. They hold that money until they receive the securities, and then they release our money to the broker. So we are waiting until we basically get our goods before we send anybody anything in terms of money.
Is that kind of standard practice?
Yeah. And then we have third-party safekeeping, that's where that portion lives, and that refers to the custodial banking relationship that we are required to have. And then internal controls kind of outlines what we're looking to mitigate when we're talking about segregation of duties and making sure that we have multiple staff involved in order to dot the i's and cross the t's. Section 8 speaks to our authorized investments, and that's on page 8. So if you recall one of our discussions, we had a whole universe of fixed income opportunities there. We truncated that down to just US Treasuries and US federal agency obligations, as well as the local government investment pool. So we're keeping it very simple, almost vanilla-like, but there are a lot of opportunities to invest in those markets for sure. So we're not shortchanging ourselves in any way. Section 9 of the policy on pages 8 through 9 are the investment parameters. A couple of items there. We maximize the amount we can put our money out in terms of time to no more than 5 years. So we're not going to buy a 10-year bond. We're going to keep things 5 years or less. There is a caveat in the policy that allows us to invest longer if we can identify a cash flow scenario that is also that length, so we can match that cash flow. If we have a long-term project for like a 20-year project, we could invest funds to pay for that project theoretically longer than 5 years if we want to. That would be a discussion because that's an anomaly. 99.9% of the time, we're looking at 5 years or less. And very rarely will we even hit 5 years, in my opinion.
We're not building any dams.
Yeah.
You never know. But you want a little bit of flexibility in the policy just in case there is a scenario that maybe you may want to accommodate or not.
If there was that kind of an exception, that's something that would be brought to the board.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. Also, our diversification is in section 9, and that states that we can invest 100% of our funds in the LGIP. We can also do 100% to the US Treasuries. Again, we want to do a little flexibility there in case the LGIP pays nothing. We can also use US discount notes in the Treasury bill markets to replicate kind of that LGIP function if we so choose. And then we, in the interest of diversification, we capped the federal agency exposure to 40% per agency. So you don't want to be too levered to one agency. You kind of want a little bit of a smattering of a variety of them if you choose to use federal agency securities. Some pay different rates, some have different terms. You just don't want to be levered to just one entity.
So Chris, I know last meeting, we had 2 vendors. We were looking for a third. Did we ever find a third vendor?
No, not at this point.
So I had suggested one. I didn't know if you had a chance.
Capital, I haven't had a chance to reach out to them yet.
Okay.
But I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until we have a policy, we can't have any vendors anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, good point. Section 9.1 are our prohibited investments, and that's on page 9. These are securities that we absolutely will not invest in. Either it's prohibited by state law, or we are not looking to get involved in something that exotic. So nothing backed by mortgage pools, not going to do that. We can't do derivatives, so no stock options, futures, or currencies. We're not looking to speculate on interest rates. That's not our job. State law prohibits money market and mutual funds. We already have repurchase and reverse agreements in our LGIP, so we might as well let the people that get paid to manage those do so. They're kind of tedious. And we're not going to violate any state law that's applicable with these investments. So whatever the state says we can't do, we will not. Section 10 is our reporting requirements, and that's on pages 9 and 10. And these are basically the bare bones of reporting to the board. Are required to report our book yield or average return for the portfolio, the holdings, so that you know what you own. Our transactional activity throughout the investment period, what did we buy in new investments, what came off the portfolio in the terms of maturity. And then the overall maturity of the portfolio, or how long it takes to turn over in terms of years. These are all just kind of the basics. When we're talking about reporting, you will get a little bit more detailed than just that. And 10.1 on page 10 speaks to performance standards. It is best practice to benchmark your portfolio so that you can see how you are doing. Most entities use a generic benchmark like a 1-year treasury rate or a 2-year treasury rate. We have a unique situation where we are focused on liquidity and not necessarily return. And we're also looking at a variety of other aspects when we talk about putting money to work for this district. So I will customize a benchmark for us that aligns to our goals. And therefore we can see how we truly are doing versus just some arbitrary interest rate in the marketplace. Makes sense? Okay, so that's kind of the overview of the policy. And just to kind of recap before we move on to the action item, I envision this where we have our investment portfolio that is kind of ring fenced. Keeps it on track and doesn't allow it to wander off in the woods and cause trouble. So we do that by putting these fence posts, if you will, in place where we have our policy objectives. Those that's the safety and the liquidity and the return. We have our allowable investments, so we can't do anything that's not allowable. We have our investment parameters that caps our amount that we put out in time, plus our diversification. We have our internal controls that allows us to, segregate duties. And it also helps with an audit in case they want to look at how we go about investing. We have our investment standard operating procedures. So that allows us to move forward in an unimpaired way in case there's staff turnover, vacation, or sick. And then we have the overarching reporting to the district manager and to the board so that you all can see in and have clarity on that. So that's kind of the recap of control. And then overall, the recap of how we go about doing this. Today, we are doing the action item. We're seeking board approval to invest and to have an investment policy. And from there, if we do have approval, we will secure brokerage services, custodial services. We will procure an investment accounting software and put that in play. And then we will start putting money to work, and we will do so in an incremental manner. We've identified roughly about $2 million of our reserves that are kind of qualified to put into investments of certain degrees. And we will probably put that $2 million to work over the course of 2 to 3 quarters. So we're looking at an investment horizon of about 6 to 9 months. So we're not in any hurry. We're not going to drop it all into one investment tomorrow. We're not looking to time the market. And throughout the whole process, we will be reporting on a quarterly basis too, so everybody knows exactly what we're doing and how it's going. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. And then finally, I want to give a last bite at the apple. If anybody has any questions on the structure, because this is the heart and soul of our portfolio. And sometimes it's a little tricky sometimes. No? Okay, that's what that is. And then finally, when we're talking about reporting, I just thought it would be helpful to kind of see the detail and the types of reporting we are going to be providing you. These are 4 tiles. There's a few more than just this. But just to give you a look at the level of detail and insight that you'll be getting as we move through building the portfolio. The upper left will give you kind of a general allocation look at what we have our money in and how it's going every quarter. So you can see seasonal trends and where our balances are. This off to the right is actually a graphical depiction of what the ladder looks like. So you have your individual rungs with the time allotment assigned to each rung, the percentage of the portfolio per rung, and the dollar amount in each rung. And that just kind of shows the level of liquidity, if you will, overnight, 3 months, 3 to 9, etc. So that's your ladder. And then below that is an actual schedule that lets you see even deeper into the ladder as to when things start to come back to you in the form of maturing cash, getting your money back, as well as your interest income that's generated from your investment. And you can look out into time to anticipate when that money is going to come back to us. So it gives you just better insight into that ladder than just staring at a bar graph, which is also fun. And then over here, we have our portfolio. This would be a look at how it is allocated in terms of security types, little pie chart here. And then off to the right would be something similar to this, where you could see the performance, maybe some interest income, some paper gains or losses that fluctuate with interest rates, the average maturity of the portfolio, which is required by policy, as well as the book yield or the portfolio yield in terms of overall return. And then there will be additional slides as well, but this is just kind of giving you a preview of what you will see.
Chris, remind me, I think you said this, is there a required top limit to the years of the average portfolio maturity?
We don't want to exceed an average of 2 years. 2 years, yeah. So it's relatively short term.
Okay.
Questions?
So if I run into one of our customers, and they ask what's in it for them, you know, how are they gonna feel the effects of what we're trying to do here today?
So what we're trying to do is we are trying to extend our earning potential out longer than the short rate LGIP, which they're currently getting the benefit of 5.4%. So if we can extend that theoretic 5.4 out, maybe 2 to 3 more months, that's more interest income that helps offset costs.
So when we're looking at costs, capital projects, whatever, is it gonna affect their rates? I know we have to kind of relook at the rate system that we have for the next 5 years, whatever, but, you know, I think I want to be comfortable, be able to discuss with them, you know, that they will feel the effects. I don't want it to look like that we're just trying to get richer. I want to
Right.
make sure that we're doing the right thing for our consumers. So, yeah, just more for me is, you know, what can I tell them?
So for me, if you're looking at being on the precipice of a 4% or a 5% rate increase, and you need a piece of equipment that's say $100,000, and by putting that in your budget, that's gonna bump you to 5%. But if you can look at your portfolio and say, oh, we're gonna make $100,000 or more, we can stay at that 4% and not increase the rate overall to that customer.
So that's perfect. I mean, it's something more tangible for them. They understand, okay, you know, we can still get that piece of equipment, but our rates won't necessarily go up. You know, depending on how things are going. Through our system.
Downward force on rates,
Yeah.
much like the cell phone tower leases are, in that they add to our revenue at minimal cost.
If we were to use the stability, it helps keep rates stable and
Right.
not increasing
Yeah, I
as
think
fast
stable.
as they might otherwise.
Yeah, I think stability is a good word, though. We don't want to promise them that our investments are going to bring them anything necessarily, but we're engaging in, you know, low risk, medium or, you know, short-term investments to
Help keep
help
your
our
rates
Maximize our returns
Right.
on
Yeah.
those saved funds.
so we don't necessarily have to raise rates
Mhm.
to invest in our infrastructure, you know, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great question.
You know,
It really
and
is.
that's what we're here for. We're here to really
Right.
take care of our customers as much as we can, but still have a very viable water district. So
We're not,
it's gotta feel both ways.
yeah, we're not investing in GameStop or.
Crypto, yes.
Yeah, no crypto, no GameStop.
So does any of this come out in a newsletter? Or is there any responsibility from us as a water district to, again, it's the finances.
Yeah.
Anybody can sit in a meeting and understand what our quarterly reports are and stuff like that.
That information, our
Is-
minutes are on the website, but I don't believe that there is. We were required to do a quarterly or a yearly consumer confidence report, but that has more to do with the product that we're delivering
Right.
than the finances
You're
behind
really
the
just
product.
using the same money that you've already been investing in your
Yeah.
LGIP.
Right, So I'm just asking
And I don't,
questions.
well, it's something to beat your chest about if you
Yeah.
get a little bit of a return, and it's nice to know for the customer, the district money is working to help you.
Right.
But if you don't ever say it, they don't ever know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But you want to expose how the sausage is made. That
Yeah,
could-
exactly.
That, I mean, that could
Exactly.
start, conversations that you don't want to have to.
Right.
And I don't know if
Exactly
anybody's
right.
telling anybody when they're talking about other districts, when the county's doing the same thing for them, right? If they're actually telling their customers that on
Yeah, that's a good question.
I
When
did-
you were with the city, did you guys talk about, the finances and how you were making investments, even if they were safe?
Yes.
You did.
Well, I mean, it was council presentation, so
Oh,
anybody watch Channel 5.
So yeah, anybody who wants to sit in, that would be, I guess when I know we're doing a report, a finance report, it would be a good time to sit in and listen to it.
yeah.
Encourage them to do
Yeah.
that.
Anybody
so.
can listen to what we're
Yeah.
talking about right
Yeah.
now.
And our
recordings are on.
Yeah.
Right.
They can watch the recordings.
That's
on the
true.
website.
Yeah.
They're available.
Yeah.
So.
The investment advisor, we don't have any.
You know what I mean?
Well, I know. We can go to an outside
You can,
source
You can.
if we decide we want to.
you can.
So that can be put off for a while to decide whether we even need to.
Sure. If you would like one, you'll pay for it.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
question about
Okay.
that.
Yeah, you can.
So then the other thing is trying to understand the separation of transaction authority from accounting and the record keeping. So how are we separating that? Who's doing what?
Well, that's something we'll have to iron out with our internal controls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the way
Because
in which.
you're doing pretty much everything right now,
Mhm.
but you can't be doing everything.
Correct. Yeah, and some of that could be mitigated by oversight by another staff member or the district manager themselves. Kind of like the way in which we do bank transfers. Tom has to approve that.
Or bank reconciliations.
Or bank reconciliations, yeah. I mean, I cut
It's
the
always
checks.
expected to set eyes on everything.
I reconcile, I have access to the credit card, I reconciled. They can also look at my reconciliation and review it so that I can't just run my own little operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good, that's a great question. I
Yeah,
was
because it
wondering
looked like, I was kind of wondering, how are you gonna do,
all of that.
maintain that
Yeah,
requirement and do it, so.
it'll be a process we'll have to iron out.
Yeah,
To make
you
sure
know,
that
it's
is
all
addressed.
audited by the state auditor. every
Yeah,
year, and
right.
it's, we have checks and balances, so.
Well, does a state audit the school districts, like a certain school district, which is umpteen $1 million in debt now?
We're not done.
The state is what brought that to the attention of the school districts.
Yeah.
You wonder how
Hang
that
on,
happened.
yeah, right.
You didn't do a very good job of that.
Hang on just a second, Brian, what were you saying?
The state auditor is what brought that attention to the school district.
Ah, that's how they found out in the first place.
A little slow.
Brian, do you have anything to add about legal requirements that we need to be aware of?
No, well, first and foremost, Chris, nicely done on the presentation. I would only destroy anything you've done. On the legal requirements, I have reviewed it. And I've made some revisions that have been incorporated in, but I'm very comfortable that this is on not only on good legal ground, but I think it actually betters the district's financial practices as you move forward. I do think as you eventually at some point enter into a debt market, this is going to be looked very favorably by an underwriter or lender as well. This just shows yet another level of sophistication for the district. So, yep.
You see any problems with us patting ourselves on the back for our constituents?
I think you take every opportunity that you can to pat yourself on the back because you don't often get those opportunities as a public agency So I think this is great. I mean, I think it's back to moving the district forward on its financial practices and its, you know, its fiscal responsibility. So, yep.
Is anybody up for reelection this cycle?
No.
Yeah.
Next year. You're right.
So does anyone else have any questions about Chris's work, that substantial amount of work that Chris has done here and the other folks and?
No questions.
Okay, you want,
We were hoping to get an
we're hoping to get an approval today. So is that coming in the form of a motion?
Yes.
I would move that we approve the investment policy Chris has developed here.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Good job,
It
Chris.
is so approved.
The
Thank you.
district investment policy.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Very well done. Very professional.
And if it blows up, he approved it, so. He
Yeah, we
he
always
wants
go
it.
back to Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
We earned a shirt too.
We approved it.
Any
Thank you,
other, anything else for you, Chris?
Yeah, just, we have, just signed the engagement letter for the audit.
Right.
So I have already been working on the preliminary work, so we will be underway sometime within the next week or two, I would imagine.
Okay,
Are
are they
they
gonna?
coming in? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. Are they coming on site?
Yes, they will be coming on site.
So last year I was asked to attend. I don't know if I need to do that again. Totally up to you, whether,
Was that the intro or was that the exit?
They always ask that we have somebody there. for
Intro and the
the
exit.
Yeah. Yeah, you can attend if you like. I would assume.
I don't know if I like or I need. It's up to you.
We'll find out more from them.
Okay.
What the requirements are, at least on the intro.
Just let me know.
The exit, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I was there for the intro that
Intro as well.
I needed to be, so just let me know.
We sure could.
I don't mind either way, so.
Absolutely.
Other than that, that's
More
all
involved
the
with the
finance.
I just live down the street, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're easy to get a hold of.
Yeah.
So water usage is down.
Oh, yeah, it's like down, all the tanks are full. Yeah, good question, Marty. I meant to mention that. From this week to about 2 weeks ago, we've seen about a 4-fold increase. Whereas we were floating in the 1 to 2 million and system 8, we're now at almost 8 million a day.
As
So
it compare with last year, where are we?
last year was a little different scenario. There was the hot April that kind of continued, and then we had a little bit more rain in May. We're pretty seasonally average now, but it's really a critical time right now where it could just go straight into June, or we could get a dip if it starts raining again.
Yeah, it
But
seems like it's been pretty dry and a little hotter than normal, so.
there's been these waves of 80, like early April and even in March that happened that made this year seem really bizarre.
Yeah.
I'd say we're probably just a tad a little bit above average, but it's not terrible. What we're more worried about is if we're not gonna get any precipitation from here on out, and then June, July and August look like a nightmare.
So revenue's probably like flat or something.
Revenue had been flat for the first, you're talking on a year-to-year average.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close to flat.
Yeah.
On the monthlies, it's now getting into, we're in revenue season. So that's good, cause, non-revenue season,
Water-based revenue. is relatively flat.
water-based revenue. Yeah, but we hope to see some rain and, not to start the summer, the last few years where it hasn't rained in 15 weeks in May.
Right.
We'd like that to start in July, not May. It was gonna maybe rain today, it did not. We were 3/4 of an inch behind in April.
Maybe get something morning, tomorrow sometime.
Yeah, and what is kind of rare right now is the humidity is now low, we're not getting much dew. which is always a bad thing. The temperature is high enough that the condensate is not happening outside in the morning, in a lot of locations in the district. That's a bad sign for May. We should be getting dew every morning in May. So, fire, power.
Yeah.
Very real
It's all
things, but we hope to get back to the climate of old where we get a rain every 2 or 3 weeks, even if it's just for 20 minutes. That's what it was historically here. I don't know, you guys have more breadth of knowledge than me, but Chris and I have talked about this. We both grew up knowing that we were gonna get rainstorms in July. It might only be for 2 hours, but it would be some wetness, and that has not been the case. It's really the larger problem. The revenue is good in that situation. The worst is a rainy all summer for revenue and the financial side of the district. So pick your poison, you know. There was one other item I wanted to mention. We did purchase a truck. I mentioned last time that we were working on buying a truck. I'm not sure if Tim was planning on mentioning that today, but he was sick. We did have it in the budget, so it was approved as a part of the budget and those things, but should be another week or two before it gets here.
And that was for who?
That was for the meter van replacement. We're still using a 2012 Chevy Express that's on its last leg, and we want to get out of the van market and into more four-wheel drive type service rigs for winter. The van is a problem. He has to pick his route very carefully in January.
You can lift it and ship it and all that kind of good stuff.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
We just want to keep it nice and
kidding.
everything truck.
Just kidding.
Can't wait to show it off. It'll be a little bit different than the other trucks that we bought in that it has a full canopy box on it with side drawers and compartments, but you can put your stuff in there and have it be secured. It's not really
Crew
cleaned
cab
up.
and all
Just a single cab.
Oh,
Just
really?
a single cab with an 8-foot box, because by the time you put a crew cab or a double cab on an 8-foot box, there's a lot of places you can't park. And this is intended for residential areas and things of that nature, so we want them to be able to get in driveways and narrow things and stuff and not have a hard time parking. But that is kind of unfortunate. It's nice to be able to put your lunch behind your seat, but better than a van.
So, we had asked, a while back, your wants, your needs. Have you followed up, or are you
There's one.
targeting some things?
Yeah, good question, Marty. We have been looking for a used scissor lift. Is on the list of want needs. There, we could rent those. But weekly, monthly rentals, maybe not the best investment of funds. And the times that are open to be able to use that type of equipment to go clean a reservoir is the primary issue. We're looking to fill the gap so we can go and clean our reservoirs. Like, we got 2 open days with no projects going on, take the scissor lift down there and go pressure wash one of the tanks. And so we've been looking for a used 50 to 60 foot scissor lift that would cover 13 of the 15 tanks, not the 2 tallest ones, to be able to maintain those a little bit better on our own without having to rent anything. So if we had tomorrow was open, pressure wash,
Would those be all terrain or?
all terrain. Yep, exactly.
With the brace sold to get up at 50 or 60 feet to do that.
Yeah. It's a lot safer than climbing up there on the ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if any of our staff that's been on top of the 110-foot tall tank, ooh, that is a serious climb and a serious feeling when you're on top there. So
I bet.
there's been a need for a while, and we have a couple of projects we'd like to do with it, and then it would also help service this facility and the garage doors and things of that nature. We had one that I was hoping to procure from United Rental, and United talked me out of wanting that one. It has a maintenance history, but we're kind of looking for a used, decent, maintainable scissor lift, if we can find one. So if you have any.
Are you looking kind of wide and far within Idaho and Washington just to?
Trying to, yeah, we're on a list for United Rentals. They have 15 different locations that they sell equipment out of, and that's a pretty good one.
Yeah,
Because it's so comprehensive, you don't have to look so much.
Yeah.
Kind of tell comparisons a little bit
Yeah.
easier.
Right.
And United Rental will maintain the thing for us if we have any problems, so
Oh.
we can get them to do the maintenance on it.
oh, that's nice.
Cause that's one thing that when we're adding equipment, we always need to be conscious of is who is gonna take care of this thing?
Yeah.
What is the maintenance cycle for it?
Yeah.
We don't have one.
That's good thought.
Yeah. Generator should be showing up in the next 30 to 45 days, for well 2C. We're waiting to hear that. We have to rent a crane in order to get it off the truck. Looking forward to hear on that. But, still thinking about that, Marty. It's a good point, though.
We're not gonna do the helicopter.
We were hoping for snowmobiles and
Well, they had one
boats.
for sale, why didn't you get it?
Like a skid steer.
Great one, great check.
Yeah, Bill really wants a skid steer. We could have used a little Bobcat this last week. Would have been really helpful for us. A Bobcat would also be really helpful for us to move snow, at different locations and be able to pile it up.
When we're backfilling, doing different things, and we're on the other end of the district, it takes a long time, so we purchased the dump trailer. If we had the skid steer, so people could be putting the road back together while we're getting rid of the mess or
Yeah.
repair.
That was kind of the hope of buying that dump trailer, is that it provides a little bit of redundancy with the dump truck, and then we could be able to haul some medium-sized equipment with it potentially to make our operation go a little smoother, not have so much drive time back and forth. So we didn't put those items in the budget though, so I'm trying to be mindful of that as well.
Anything else? We don't,
We can.
and no executive
No,
session.
no.
Anything else? We are adjourned. Brian, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.